and they're like, look at it.
All right, 6:30, so it should go live here. Good. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our council meeting for Monday, September the 23rd. Tonight, we do have a committee of adjustment meeting prior to our regular council agenda, so we'll call that meeting to order at 6:30. For our committee of adjustment agenda, we have a public meeting which is being held under sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act to consider minor variance application as well as a consent application. The minor variance application is filed under file A24-02, and it is for the property located at 110 Adeline Street in the town of Shelburne. And the purpose of the application is to request relief from section 3.15.9 of zoning bylaw number 38-2007 to permit a reduction in the required parking spaces for the existing and proposed expanded office building from 18 parking spaces to 14 parking spaces, as well as relief from section 4.6.2 to permit a reduced minimum interior side yard, which would be on the west, abutting a residential use from 2 meters to 1.26 meters. The second application, which is filed under file B24-03, is for the property located at 800 to 824 Ojibway Road. The applicant is applying for consent under the Planning Act in order to satisfy section 50 sub 5, which states that a consent approval is required in order to obtain approval for a lease agreement with a term 21 years or more. The applicant is seeking a lease with a term, including the renewal options of up to 40 years. Now ask the clerk for the method of notice for tonight's public meeting.
Notice of tonight's public meeting was advertised in local media sources. Notice is posted on the town of Shelburne website, and property owners within a 60-meter radius have received notification.
Thank you. So we'll have a presentation from our planner in respect of both applications. Once that presentation is done, I'll entertain questions from members of the committee as well as the gallery who are here. The applicants are here. And then we'll make a decision. So Steve, I'll turn it over to you for the first one.
Okay, great. And based on the agenda, the first one is B2403. Yeah. Okay, so I'll start with that one. I just have a few quick slides to provide a bit more information about this application. So the first one is B2403 by Shelburne Commercial Developments Limited. I think the applicants are planning to join it online. I'm not sure if they are there. Great. And it's for the new Emerald Crossing Plaza located at 800 to 824 Ojibway Road, which is part of the overall subdivision. It's been developed east of County Road 124 and north of Highway 89. I'm sure you're all familiar with the plaza, but the first slide just shows the location of the subject property. You can see here. The property was developed in accordance with a site plan agreement. All of the buildings are constructed and the units within those buildings are occupied by commercial tenants. The restaurant in the southeast corner is a McDonald's restaurant. They operate on the basis of a lease of not only their building, but the surrounding parking area, the drive-through, the refuse and loading area, the landscaping immediately adjoining that building. And they are seeking a lease with Fieldgate, or Fieldgate seeking to offer them a lease that exceeds 21 years less a day. So you might ask, well, why does that involve Planning Act consent? It's not selling a piece of land to McDonald's. The Planning Act restricts leasing a portion of land for greater than 21 years or more, except in certain exceptions. And this application does not fall under those exceptions. So the only ways a property owner can lease a piece of land for a commercial restaurant such as McDonald's is via Planning Act consent. So committee of adjustment approval is required to allow that. Again, it does not convey the land from Fieldgate to from the owner to McDonald's. It simply allows for a lease to be as long as 40 years in this case is what's requested. Just on the next slide, you get a bit more of the area context. Surrounding area, as we know, is commercial across the road and some existing wooded areas, residential to the north and east. Directly across the road you see on the air photo is an existing topsoil pile that was there at the time of the air photo. That's mostly been cleared out now. And that site is approved for commercial development as well. That should be starting any day now for additional commercial units. To the west, the existing Riverwood Plaza and some additional future development land that's part of the subdivision. And of course, to the north, some townhomes as well as part of the new subdivision. The surrounding land use context was considered, but really there's no impact for anyone visiting the plaza or living in the surrounding area. This doesn't impact or change the way that will operate. It just is a land transaction between the property owner and the tenant to allow for an extended lease of that area. Just a bit more detail. So this is an excerpt from the approved site plan, which shows building E, which is the McDonald's and the surrounding parking, as well as the drive-through lane and the other elements that I mentioned earlier. The total area is 0.284 hectare or 0.7 acre. And that's the area that will be subject to this extended lease. So we circulated the application in accordance with the Planning Act. And on this last slide here, we've just recommended some conditions of approval. There were no objections from agencies circulated. There's been no public comments or concerns received. So subject to any comments from the committee or questions may come up from the committee or public tonight. We are recommending a conditional approval. The conditions are fairly standard. The first one just requires the normal secretary treasurer certificate, which is the last thing that's provided once all the other conditions are fulfilled. There's a few things though for this type of application which would be new to the committee. We haven't really had this type of application in the past that I'm aware of. So we did some research on what are typical conditions for this type of application, things that need to be checked legally to make sure that everything is consistent with the site plan agreement, that if there are any easements or restrictive covenants on title to the property, that those are carried forward into the lease agreement, that the existing parking areas will be maintained as shared for the plaza as a whole. So the way the site plan approval is structured is parking is calculated for the entire plaza, not each individual use within each tenant space in each building. And so technically, although McDonald's will lease a certain part of the site, their parking can be used by other tenants in the site or visitors to the site. And finally, that the lease agreement complies with the Planning Act. So that will be a legal opinion that will require from the applicant before the certificate is issued, just to confirm those things. It's also common that a draft reference plan or a survey be provided showing the lease area. Again, not a sale of land, but a part of the reference plan to indicate that this is where the lease applies. And the applicant will have up to 2 years to clear those conditions. So with that, I'll pause there, and if the committee has any questions, I'm happy to try and answer. Thank you.
Okay. Questions received? Pretty straightforward.
We're all looking at you, Walter.
I got no questions. I'm fine. All right, unless the applicant wants to add anything, which I expect is probably not the case.
No, all good here. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so motion moved by Gushardi, seconder for that. Seconded by Sample. After considering the application, the committee is satisfied with allowing this consent to permit a lease agreement with a term of 40 years, which includes a renewal option. The committee, having regard to those matters under subsection 5124 of the Planning Act as amended, resolves to grant provisional consent subject to the conditions that were reviewed by the planner. Discussion on that? All in favor? Carried.
Let's hope the ice cream machine keeps running.
I like the timing.
All right, and so the second application is A 2402 filed by Lloyd Hunt, the architect for Cruson Insurance. We have the Crusons here tonight joining us as well as the property owners. The property is located at 110 Adeline Street, which is at the southwest corner of Main Street West and Adeline Street. So similar to the last application, I'll just go through a few quick slides to show the context. So the next one just shows the location of the property. I'm sure you're all familiar with this one as well, with the existing office located at the front on Main Street, small parking area located behind, and there's an adjoining single detached residential use to the south and to the west, and then the vacant former mill property is further south. The property is within the downtown core. The boundary of the downtown core is mapped in the official plan. And of course, you can see the other commercial buildings and uses to the east and northeast. On the next slide, it just shows the current street view image showing the existing building view from the parking area along Adeline Street, where you can see the single-story portion of the building behind the main two-story portion. And at the top of that single-story portion is an existing deck on the roof and an exterior staircase that heads up to that deck. And so the proposal is to add a second story to that one-story portion for some additional office space and also to enclose the stairs. The second image at the bottom of this slide just shows the view from Main Street, an existing two-story portion of the office, as well as the existing dwelling to the east or to the west. Sorry. The next slide, this is kind of turned on its side just so it fit better to the slide, but this is the site plan provided by the architect. So north is to the right, where there's the Main Street frontage. Just with the cross hatching in orange there, that's the area of the proposed building addition. Again, it's within the footprint of the existing one-story portion, adding the second story on top of that, as well as the stairwell portion. It is really the enclosure of the outside stairs that brings this addition a little bit closer to the west property line. The property to the west is also zoned for a mix of commercial and residential uses. But because it currently has a single detached residential use on it, the zoning bylaw says that a 2-meter setback is required along that side. That would need to be reduced a little bit by this variance to allow the setback to be reduced for that small part of the addition to, I think, it's 1.26 meters. The site plan also shows the 14 existing parking spaces at the back of the property. And you can also see there's a couple of spaces that are partly on the property and partly on the Adeline Street right of way. So the other purpose of this application, there really is no room to add more parking spaces on the site. The other purpose of the application is therefore to reduce the parking requirement for the on-site parking spaces from 18 spaces to 14. This is confirmed on the next slide, which just shows that in the table format. Again, reducing the interior side yard for that small area along the west side of the building, where the owners want to enclose the stairwell from 2 meters to 1.26 meters, a variance of 0.74 meters, and reduce the parking from 18 to 14 spaces, which is a reduction of 4 spaces. Our report provides a summary of the tests under the Planning Act, and the applicant also addressed those tests through a letter from the architect. And we would agree with the applicant that this is satisfying the 4 tests, and it is relatively minor. In particular, we focused on the fact that the reduction in the side yard is just to enclose that stairwell and is for a very small part of the side lot line, and that really won't have any direct impact to the home to the west. The home to the west is also pretty far set back from that side lot line. So we're not anticipating any impacts there. It still maintains enough space to get around the side of that building on the outside as well. And then with respect to the parking, we focused more on the fact that, for offices, particularly the use of this office for insurance professionals, they're not always in the building working on site. They may be working from home. They may be at client offices or visiting others to provide their services, and the full 18 parking spaces may not be needed, which is really based on a floor space ratio in the zoning bylaw. There are a few conditions which are identified on the next slide, which we're recommending. Specifically that, like any variance, we want to make it clear that this variance with respect to parking and the side yard is specifically for this addition, so it's not generally for the property as a whole. If there's further additions or the building is further expanded to the west, there would need to be a further variance for that. And then the second one, there is a site plan approval application that's been filed in conjunction with this. So again, just tying the two together, that the minor variance and the site plan go hand in hand. And the site plan has been circulated. There's been no issues or comments identified from a technical perspective with that. So that is an approval that occurs at the staff level and should occur in due course very soon. And then finally, of course, that a building permit is required for the building addition. As I mentioned, we haven't received any public comments or concerns with respect to the proposal at this time. And we're here, of course, to receive comments from the committee, should you have any, as well as from the public, if there are any, and anything further the applicant may want to add. So I'll pause there for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions, committee? Applicant?
We know how valuable your time is, so we won't take up any.
No comment.
Okay, Mr. Hunt is okay as well.
I would like to say, your worship, that the staff at the town of Shelburne have been very helpful and cooperative. We want to get this underway before the weather closes in upon us, and so they've done their very best to accommodate us. For that, I'm eternally grateful. Thank you.
Always good to hear.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I don't think there's any other public members out there, so be willing to make a motion. Okay. Go with Sample this time, seconded by Gashardi. So after considering the application, the committee is satisfied that the request is minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate and continued use of the subject property, and maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and official plan. The application is approved subject to the following conditions, and then lists the conditions that Steve just reviewed in his report. The final discussion on this. All in favor? It's carried. Okay,
Great, thank you very
all
much.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parking issue, we have embarked upon negotiations very late on the mill property. And as Randy Chambers would say, there are 700,000 reasons why we shouldn't do this. But there's one that's right.
That's all it takes sometimes, right? Good, okay, well.
Thank you very much.
All right,
But we, in the interim, we have arranged to park. So during the construction period, people will be
parking down the street.
Perfect.
Okay, excellent, all right.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
and your input.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Good evening, thank you.
That's like, I'm out of here.
That's fine.
You're good.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much.
He's like,
Drive carefully. All right, so for posterity, let's get a motion to adjourn our committee of adjustment meeting, moved by Donato, seconded by Wagner. All in favor? Carried.
Hey, we get the best meetings, right? One, right?
yeah, yeah. Always, though, always.
The adjourn. Yeah, easier ones. Good. All right, so we will call our regular council meeting to order at 6:50, and we will begin as we normally do with playing that. like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Shelburne resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Chippewa, and the people of the Three Fires Confederacy. These traditional territories upon which we live, work, play, and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions, and it is with this statement we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? No? Okay. All right, on to our minutes from the September 9th council meeting. Can I have a mover and seconder to get those minutes on the floor? By Bernardo, seconded by Wagner. Any discussion on those? All in favor? It's carried. All right, so that takes us to question period. Like anybody's in here yet? And nothing was submitted beforehand? Okay. All right, so we do have one proclamation tonight for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, which is on Monday. And I suspect maybe you'll have more to say in council inquiries just about what's planned.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As far as the proclamation goes, it reads as follows. Whereas in June of 2021, the federal government passed new legislation making September 30th a national statutory holiday to commemorate the tragic legacy of residential schools in Canada. And whereas the establishment of a national holiday is in response to the 80th call to action within the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, and whereas the date coincides with Orange Shirt Day, which began in 2013 and has become a symbol of remembrance to honor Indigenous children forced to leave their families to attend residential schools. And whereas the orange shirt symbol originated in the experience of Phyllis Jack Webstad, who shared her story of how her new orange shirt was taken away from her on her first day at St. Joseph Mission Residential School, leaving her with feelings of worthlessness and insignificance. And whereas this day will provide a way for our community to publicly commemorate the history and legacy of residential schools and the resilience of residential school survivors, commemoration being a vital component of the reconciliation process. And whereas Shelburne is a community that encourages and celebrates its cultural diversity, now therefore I, Mayor Wade Mills, on behalf of council, do hereby proclaim September 30th, 2024 as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in the town of Shelburne. Do you want to speak to that now?
I could,
Monday,
yes.
sure. Why don't we do that?
So on the 30th, there will be a ceremony at, followed by a 1 kilometer walk, 7 p.m. at Jack Downing Park. The public is encouraged to come out and wear your orange shirts and mark that somber and important occasion.
The route we're taking this year because we've taken different routes.
The road has changed slightly, but there'll be some Indigenous members. I think those drummers.
Yeah.
Coming, and there'll be a couple of speeches as well. So,
And it's starting.
starting at 7 p.m. sharp. Rain or shine, bring an umbrella. Rain.
I think it did drizzle a little bit last year.
No, I don't think so.
As long as it doesn't snow.
Yes. I think we should be safe from snow.
Yeah.
Say the S word.
Okay, so we have two presentations this evening. The first is from the Shepherd's Covered Food Bank. I think there's quite a group out in the other room, so wait till they come in. Maria?
Thank you. Marion, can you get the? Oh, is it allowed down here? Thank you.
So not on sure. So it's not sure.
One.
When you said delegations.
Yeah. Biggest crowd we've had in a long time. Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. First and foremost, really, I'd just like to say thank you, not only for the time today, but really for past support that you guys have provided, the council and municipality has provided to the food bank. There's no way that the food bank could exist without the many partnerships it shares with all of its community partners, so appreciate you very much. We're a not-for-profit organization run entirely through volunteers. Volunteers pulled from Shelburne and its surrounding areas. Look around you, we're well represented for sure. Full representation right here on your own council with our own friend Len Gucciardi here. One of the many Shelburne residents that volunteer their time. They volunteer to make a difference in someone's life and help people when they could use a little support. Sometimes all people need is a little help to get them over a challenge that is happening at that moment in time. Our clients are also made up of residents of here of Shelburne and its surrounding areas. In fact, on the average of over 240 3 to 5 people families, 75 seniors, and multiple individuals that attend the food bank monthly, 73% are residents of Shelburne. You heard that average right, and in fact, the amount of families has increased month over month over the last 5 months, with us receiving new clients monthly. In August alone, we served 678 individuals through our regular time, senior markets, and deliveries. 20% of these individuals were seniors and 37% of them were children. Just like the township, we serve a wide array of clients, all of which are trying to survive the times that we're in today. So I think you guys have received some pictures from Ardith. I'm gonna pass it over to Ardith just to kind of speak towards that part of our performance.
Oh, can you go to the big one first? So here is our hamper that we would give to a family that was 3 to 5. So the size 3 to 5. So we have a 1 to 2 size hamper, we have a 3 to 5, and then we have 6, 7, 8, etc. up to 12. I think our biggest families are 12. So this is an example of what goes into a hamper for a family of 3 to 5. Does anybody have any idea what that costs at the store right now?
I'm gonna say 180.
Anyone else? Yeah.
230.
That big. Anyway, this.
Peanut butter's expensive now.
It's $10.79 at Home Depot. But this example of here, right here, is about approximately $125 to $135. So that's for a family of 3 to 5. Can you go to the next one with the eggs in it? Then we add an assortment of meats, etc. to the family. So every family gets a chicken, a hamburger, and then usually we try to give them a choice of a meat. Now, the extra meat is food rescue meat. So it's not food that we're buying, that comes from either, well, usually it comes from No Frills. Late freeze, best before, and then we pick up, and then that becomes our choice. We have eggs, we have margarine, and because it was the summer, we had hot dogs and cheese slices. So that package in there adds immediately to the cost of the $150, so that goes out. Then, next picture. We have the baby package when there's babies. Now, I don't know if anyone here has a baby, but do you know how much that can of formula is now?
$25.
You're buying them. You should go to No Frills at 40. So it's $40 for the can of formula, it's, I forget what it is for the cereal, the diapers, we tried to get 3 donation and we give half a pack and the wipes. So that adds up to an additional cost to the families, and then we have feminine hygiene that we give out as well, so there are pull-ups for incontinent, people who need the support. And there's also pads and tampons, and then we have dog and cat food, but that is donated, so that is donated from the SPCA down in Orangeville. We get our dog food from there, and Andrea and Bruce go and get it, and they bag it up for us to give out. And of course, now we're having to take into consideration and buy a whole host of different foods as Shelburne becomes more multicultural. So we have a freezer that only hosts vegetarian food, we have a freezer for our halal food. We have far more requests for beans that like this, rather than some of the packaged food that we would normally put into our hampers. As well, for our hampers, for those with babies, we add a $20 coupon for Foodland so that they can buy baby food if they need it. Our seniors get a $15 Your Choice card from Giant Tiger so they can make their own selections for things that they need, whether it be food or they need other things. And then we give coupons. So to a 3 to 5 size family, we give them a coupon, 1 coupon for bread, which is 2 loaves of bread at Foodland, for 1 bag of 3 bags of milk, and $30 in produce so that they can go and make their own choices. When it's a larger family, it doubles. So we double the coupons. So this is to get them through what we say a 5 to 7 day period, and they're only able to come to the food bank once a month because we're not able to provide anybody to be anybody's primary food source, but we try to do at least the week. Now, we probably in some ways might not have gotten here today, except that in the past 2 months, July and August, we spent $65,000. Which is an incredible and an unbelievable amount of money that we have had to spend this summer. Part of it is because donations go down from February to September. So this is our low period, and we will begin picking up as people begin thinking about Thanksgiving and Christmas. But we are hitting these key periods spending far more money than we've ever spent before.
Well, let's think of it, so yeah, it was a bit of an aberration in August, and let's think of it on average. So if we look between 200 and 250 for the box that goes there, it's called 225. You know, average we get about 240 families on a month, so that's $54,000. At $54,000, 73% of that would be $39,420. Basically, last year we had applied for a grant of $20,000. In 2024, the total budget for Shelburne is almost $13 million. We requested the maximum we were allowed last year, which was equal to less than 0.2% of the total budget that Shelburne holds. We were allowed less than that still. Though we're quite grateful for the support that has been given from the council here. The truth is it's a drop in the bucket for the town's usage and the residents that look to us when they're in a time of emergency. And I think, you know, if there was a point when, you know, any of the constituents were to reach out to any of you all as part of council, I'm sure the food bank would be a place that you'd think of as a solution to be able to help them if need be. And we hope that you would, quite frankly. Food scarcity, unfortunately, is something that is continuing to be on the rise. I'm sure you all have seen the stats; they're really quite alarming. One specifically, we had, you know, a bit of a slideshow to go along with it, but I just want to bring out one key which really stood out to me, was that Feed Ontario, a network of more than 1,200 food banks and hunger relief organizations, said record-breaking 1,001,150 people visited the food bank in the province between April of 2023 and March of 2024. That stat of March, why that becomes relevant here is that there was a 32% increase from 2022 to 23. But if you look from 2019 till today, it's 78.5%. It's not going away, right? It's something that is just going to get worse for the town.
Sorry, that was from 2019.
2019 till today, that's right, that's right. I'm gonna hand it back over to Ardit. She had just to speak towards some of the stuff that we're trying to do to try to combat this.
So steps that we've taken is we did begin a sponsorship campaign for a community food rescue vehicle. So this is the vehicle that will help us access the food some of the food that we need, because we really have 10 to 12 cars on the road at any given time, to do deliveries, to pick up food, to answer emergency calls, and we really want to get into where we can consolidate that into one vehicle, but we couldn't take on the price of it. We have been asking around, and we've had good response so far to our campaign. And that will help us increase actually our food rescue, our deliveries, as we're requested all the time to deliver to medically fragile seniors in the community. And we go as far as Honeywood and over and up to Melanchthon and back down, but they're mostly here in Shelburne. It would help us with seniors market, and that is where we go to 5 different locations, and we bring fresh produce, breakfast foods, milk, eggs, and anything extra that we have to the seniors so that they can make use of it, and that costs about $20,000 a year. And we hope that the van will be at all town events or most town events so that people who want to contribute to the food bank can. And it's a living legacy for a lot of places because we're going to have the names of the sponsors put on it. The second thing that we've done is we've applied this year for nonprofit status. We're still waiting to hear for that, but we realize that as we get bigger, we need to do bigger things. And that's part of why we're here. We applied for the nonprofit status. We still haven't heard. They have 1 more week till they hit the 8-week mark. And then I'll call the MPP, see if they can help me out there because there's no phone to call. But anyway, then our eventual plan is to go to charitable status. And what that will do for us, that will open up way more venues for food rescue and to get food from Feed Ontario and Food Banks Canada. So that will open many more doors for us for grants as well. That will open up many more doors once we have nonprofit or charitable status. Albeit with licensing, that carries additional rules and responsibilities. So that means, again, that we'll be having to do some changing at the food bank. The third thing we did was we underwent strategic planning, and I think I did include a synopsis of that with your package. With Good Roots Consulting to review systems of food delivery and access and to work towards priorities that will strengthen the food bank. Part of what the food bank is hampered by is lack of space in where we are. We love the Oaks, but there is a lack of space for us for being able to take on larger deliveries that would reduce the cost somewhat. And there's also stairs, and as many of these volunteers can attest to, we have had numerous and ongoing knee and back issues with carrying the food up. We're still serving clients outside in the rain, in the snow, in the middle of life labs. It's really a very unhospitable outside environment for the clients, but we continue to do that. And our fourth is we've increased our partnerships in the community with service clubs and with No Frills Foodland, Giant Tiger, where we food rescue. We food rescue with Cobb's Bread, Starbucks, Mary Brown's, and Excellent. So I was just talking to them on Saturday, and they're interested in that. So we do have good support within the community and with the SPCA, of course, for dog and cat food, and with Shared Bounty, which also, will work with us in many different ways. So, but another thing to recognize is that 81% of our volunteers are 55 and over. So again, we needed. But I am am very thankful for you, but I mean, statistics have shown that, I think Barry once wrote, there's a 90-year-old rule that you have to work till you're 90 at the food bank, and I'm very grateful to them, but that's the type of volunteer that does come and put in all that time at the food bank. A couple of concerns that we have is that we are a 365-day service that is used by the town and by the people of this town. We answer emergency calls. So, you know, I've been called on Christmas and had to respond with food to give out to people. We get calls from doctors, telehealth, helplines, DCAFs, family transition place, Homewood. You know, and again, like that's part of our difficulty is when we go to the grant process, is that, you know, we're talking about special one-day events or certain things, but we're providing 365 days, and we've also always felt that we're a service to this town and a service that has responded well to this town. And I think that the interviews that the strategic planner did really spoke to that, spoke to the worth that both the clients and the different community members felt for the food bank. And we've asked, I guess the other concern we have is we've asked for the last 4 years to become a budget line item. And when a motion was finally made for that last year, no one seconded it. And yet that motion, to my understanding, is just to investigate it. So we were really quite taken aback when no one seconded that motion to look at that. Orangeville is a budget line, Alston is a budget line. We're Shelburne. We would like to be and feel that we should be a budget line within, or at least investigate the possibility of being a budget line within the town. And we're concerned about the cancellation of the events at Phillip Park for 2025, because that directly affects, you know, donations to the food bank, both in money and in food donations. So we're a little bit concerned about that as well. But those are just some of our concerns.
We're asking the municipality to form an even stronger partnership with us than we already have. We're telling you that we cannot continue on the same path that we have been on since 2019. The need for the food bank is greater than ever. It's an essential service, the same way as our protective services are. Think about it. Every resident may not have to call for the service of a police or fire department for help, but we all sleep better at night knowing that if such an emergency should arrive, they will be there for us. Calling 911 can be life-saving, especially at a time when you're your most vulnerable. The food bank is no different. Although all residents may not need to use the services, we would all be very thankful it was there if we needed it. It could certainly save someone's life when they're needing us. And by the way, Shelburne, as you all know, has allotted $4,475,718 to those protective services in 2024. We're asking for a 3-year commitment. We're asking for $80,000 annually to be included as a byline on the budget, and at just a fraction of the total cost of the use of the Shelburne residents. As you may know, we received a grant to hire a strategic planner to help forging our path forward as the food bank continues to outgrow our capacity. We've gone through the planning process and have developed a 3-year plan. You've received the summarized version of this, and as you can see, further identified three key priorities that we need to strengthen in order for the food bank to be able to keep us, to keep up with the growth and demand to continue to function in the upcoming years. So these priorities we have right now is sustainable leadership, strong community support, and of course, finding a new home, as Ardith mentioned. You guys can all be an integral part of that. We can achieve all 3 goals together, and in turn, helping the multiple residents get back on their feet and continue to contribute to the Shelburne community. Our current structure of receiving support from the township consists completely of us applying for a grant, and we cannot effectively plan for the future when we annually don't know how much we can apply for, and 2, if we will even receive anything at all. It wasn't long ago many members of this council were congratulated as Shelburne held the title as the fastest growing town in Ontario. But bringing residents into the town also brings with it a responsibility to ensure its infrastructure can handle the growth. It's not just sewer systems, roadways, and amphitheaters, it's also its people. Its residents are what makes Shelburne a special community, are healthy and unhealthy, our seniors and our youth, are financially stable, and those that can use some help. We'd be supporting our people as our greatest resource. I believe it was the selfless Mahatma Gandhi that stated the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Just an update, I know you're aware of it, but I'll share it with the rest of the group. So at our last county council meeting, county council received a presentation from Orangeville Food Bank, which shared a similar sort of story. And I don't think that experience is dissimilar amongst any food bank anywhere in Ontario. Probably throughout North America, to be honest, but demand is up, donations are down, and they're really feeling a crunch. So the ask from the Orangeville Food Bank, the county council, was to increase the annualized funding that the county provides in an amount consistent with essentially the rate of growth that they've experienced in terms of demand. So as part of that discussion, I reminded county council that Orangeville Food Bank is not the only food bank in the county. And the rest of my colleagues agreed that whatever percentage increases applied to Orangeville's funding will also be applied to Shelburne. So that will help a bit this year.
Yeah, very happy with that.
That's great. So that said, are there questions around the?
You know me, I'm always gonna ask a question, right? The 73% from Shelburne, we know every time you come, we ask the same, probably ask the same question. The remainder is not from Shelburne, outside of Shelburne. So this presentation going to every municipal council?
Yeah, we've been to every.
And what has been their response?
Muller gave us $900 last year, which was almost double what you could ask for in the grant process. Melanchthon just gave us 5,000 but that was for the van campaign. I haven't heard back this year yet from Mono and Amaranth. It's on Amaranth and Mulmer. It's on their next council meeting. So yes, we did both.
Okay, that's great. I'll be honest with you. The way things are going in this province, like you said, with the increase in food, to my mind, it shouldn't be a municipal, as we only have the one availability of raising funds through our taxes.
Yeah.
It should be provincial. Because they have a lot more ability through the different taxation forms and federal, never mind just for provincial. On the way that they spend a lot of money in a lot of foolish ways. They're not thinking of their own people in their own province to feed them and look after them. And that's where it really should lie on their doorsteps. So I think maybe one of the things that we as municipal council can also do is start writing motions, getting our organizations to start going after the province, at least, maybe not feds, but at least the province, maybe even the feds.
Right, and there are a few things in place like grocery and essential living, thing that's coming up.
But no money.
Right. Money is
the money is the big thing, right? And there's no money, and that's what I'm saying. Maybe we can start petitioning them to start funding it and
Any
getting it.
advocacy would be welcome.
Yeah.
More than welcome, yeah. Because I mean, one of the volunteers commented, how do you put 33 years into 10 minutes? Because we've been in operation 33 years, so this is a surprise to us too. And we're all volunteer led. And so I think that the strategic report speaks to that we now have to be a different kind of food bank. We need to look at a paid person. We need to look at taking that nonprofit status and that, because that will open doors, that will feed. So it's like a short-term payment for a long-term gain. in the longer term. So it's like a critical 3 years that, hopefully we will be out of the woods because we'll be able to access so much more. So we're trying to take those steps, but in the meantime, we are charged with, taking care of all the people that come through our doors, so.
I'm just gonna follow up on Councilor Donato's point, just to be clear, more for those that are maybe watching or will be watching this later, the province doesn't provide any direct funding. That's correct.
Right, they provide food through
Yeah.
Feed Ontario, but you have to be a nonprofit and or a charitable, so that's why we're proceeding to that part. But part of that would be helped with a paid person because they would have the time to do, like, it's hard to juggle all the balls when you're a volunteer.
I think the other point is that we're growing to a point now, not only with need, we have the space, we have the funds, all of that all comes with it. And the facts is that the way we were operating previously, it's just not gonna work anymore. Yeah. Plain and simple, it's just not gonna work anymore. So we need to evolve. That's where that strategic planning came in. And we need partnerships to evolve, right? And I can respect the fact that you're limited as to revenue streams that come through, absolutely. I can also respect that there, municipal government and provincial government and federal government, for that way, often are all fighting for kind of the same piece of pie that comes through. I can respect that as well. With all of that said, all due respect to everybody in this room, we serve Shelburne. You guys represent Shelburne. We're here to come to our delegates, to our people, to try to look for help. I think that's a fantastic suggestion, Walter, as far as the advocacy goes, because we could certainly use that, and even some of the knowledge that's here in this group about how to get access to some of those funds would be useful as well. But I think part of the key for our presentation today was the word partnership, and we're certainly looking for that from the municipality. Further, again, not to disparage any of the great things that the municipality's done for Shelburne Food Bank in the past, or Shelburne's Covered Food Bank in the past, but we're going to need to strengthen that, and we're going to need to be more if we're going to continue to provide that safe service to all of the constituents here. So.
Right, because when you look at growth, at one point we were in this cupboard. That's where the food bank was, and we used to run up and down the elevator to get the food from the basement. So we have evolved from the small numbers into this, quite a working machine down there at the Oaks, but we still need space.
Councilor Sample.
Great presentation, by the way.
Thanks so much.
In your numbers, in your 73 or 70, or just whatever the percentage was of the Shelburnes, is it, where do you see the majority of the people? I don't exact, but are you seeing 50 plus, are you seeing 30 to 50 ranges? Where do you see?
20% are seniors, 37% of that is children. The difference is made up, I guess, between those two gaps, right?
Right.
So I would, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's really a mixture, really is, between the individual to the families, to the seniors.
I think the reality of also the situation is it's a transient kind of situation where we may see somebody 1 month and not see somebody else the month after, and then that person we hadn't seen for that, we may see them again the month after that, so it's not always a 1 for 1.
Right.
Try to use averages as best we can. Yeah.
So like Walter said, our funds come from a taxpayer base.
Mm-hmm.
So
I look around and I see a bunch of taxpayers here.
you do.
Yeah.
So
And I know the residents that are using it are also taxpayers.
So at our budget meetings, like $90,000 is a 1% increase. So if you're putting a 1% increase on your tax base on top of already the tax base that we have to increase, what are we doing to are we increasing the flow back to you guys again because we just done the increase here? Now nobody can afford to do that.
It's
so
a
they're going back.
balance,
What do they
right?
do?
It is a
Here,
balance.
it's a big
I
circle.
think that's the key for
Yeah,
sure.
it's a
I think
balance.
that that's the key, is it's a balance, and maybe we're feeling like it's been tipped this way. And we're not, it's not balanced in our area. I think it could use a little bit more of that balancing act back towards our
And I
way.
think sometimes it takes creativity. I mean, I think it takes first recognition that there's a problem, that we, you know, we're struggling and that there is. But I think it might take creativity. I mean, maybe you want to dedicate the budget for the flowers in the town for 1 year. That's a great thing to put in the paper. You know, the town of Shelburne recognizes that there's food insecurity and that the numbers have soared. So this year we're not gonna have the flowers, and give us that budget. I know that that's a budget line, but it does take, you know, and I'm not saying that's the way to do it. I know beautification to the
Right.
town, but there's ways that you know, thinking creatively, we have to recognize that this is something that has been, you know, insurmountable across the nation right now. So it's something that we're all struggling with, and I think creativity is the way to address some of that.
Just another.
So that's why I made a comment I made about the fact that it really shouldn't be on a municipal tax base. It should be at the provincial level, the federal level, because in all honesty, you know, we are extremely limited in the way we are able to raise funds. And I don't know, I know you guys feed people and you get the smiles and everything when you get the food, but I get hell when I raise taxes too high. And it's a whole totally different ballgame.
But should and is are also two
Yeah,
separate things, right?
and we
So
understand
that's-
that, we understand
It's a
that.
balance.
Councilor Sample as a follow-up here.
Question, Jeff Lane. The camera, the photo camera situation, are you looking at that?
Yeah.
Is there a projection of how much revenue that may come in? Yeah,
Like for speed enforcement?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think for speaking.
I'm just looking, that's gonna be a new source of revenue.
Well,
It'll
maybe
likely-
not.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
It might be,
It's not sustainable.
it might be revenue neutral, to be honest.
So your, obviously with the food prices increasing that everybody's hit so hard with, have your donations gone way down because of that?
Well, it's hard to tell because we're in the
The
down
slow
period
period.
right now. This is our slow period. We'll see as we press up to Christmas, but I think it is affecting us. Like, we've had less than we've ever had, and we've spent more than we've ever spent.
What I
So-
can say with certainty is that the cash donations have not increased alongside with it.
Right.
So the cash that we are getting to go and order and buy the supplies is getting spread less, right? So absolutely it's affected in that way for sure already.
Thank you.
Because that, like I
Thank
said,
you.
as
Thank you.
with the Balance Act, you know, we wanna make sure that we're not increasing a 1%, you know, potential tax base and then sending more people to you, right? Because they just can't afford, right, everything. So I think you're right, we have to be creative about this and we have to look at other things that we can maybe do, or, you know, we can shift. But also to Walter's point, I do agree that, yeah, we need help from, you know, higher levels of government, but also it's not there yet and people need to eat. So in the interim, there has to be that balance and that's the key is that word, balance. 'Cause-
And that's what we're looking at as in the interim, if we can get, some money that we can do the things that were outlined in the strategic plan, that is gonna open up more avenues that we can access from government.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're just kind of on that critical area right now as to we're hampered by the fact that we, you know.
You're still
took
waiting
the
on
hit.
those approvals for like the nonprofit, for
Right.
example, where you
Right.
need that in order
Right.
to open another door.
Yes.
So I would maybe not wait for 8 weeks, I would send a message to your MP,
Yeah.
well, our MVP,
Yeah.
probably this week. And just get on it, type of thing, right? Cause yeah, I think it's been long, you should have an answer by now.
I feel it. Yes.
I had a comment. Never mind, I was food bank now for 6 or 7 years and I interviewed people. So when they come in, we interviewed them, we asked them, you know, what expenses they have and what income they have. I would say 90% are renters.
Yeah.
They don't pay mortgages. So this cycle of people that pay mortgages and can't afford to buy food, that's a very, very low number. Because most of these people are all renters.
To that point, one of the things I've read recently is that food banks, and I suspect it may be the case here locally, that a lot of the increase they've seen is amongst working people.
Yep.
So I mean, these are people who have full-time jobs. They may not be, you know, the stereotypical client that we may think of as those who are availing themselves of food banks. These are just simply people who at the end of the month don't have enough to make ends meet by the time they pay their mortgage or their rent and utilities and everything else. And they're coming up short.
And really,
Is that,
it
like,
is
have you seen
true.
that? Yeah.
The rent that they are paying far out exceeds what they're getting in, and it leaves you wondering, how are they getting through the month? That, and I would say some of the recent immigration to Shelburne has really increased that, the food bank.
We're finding too that where there's a bunch of houses that become boarding houses then, so you have 6 or 7 individuals that are in the house. Not all 6 or 7 individuals are coming and getting individual packages because they're not correlated to each other, they don't know each other. And so that's another strain that comes through, and how do we then treat that household as compared to a different household that is a family that's all together? And it's been interesting to try to navigate.
That's for sure.
No.
Okay. The CAO just clarified the one point, Jeff, that you had raised, so I guess today it was, you received a call that revenue that is generated from automated speed enforcement. I mean, first of all, it's difficult to project what that's going to be, but
Why
more.
am I visual looking at it?
Yeah,
No.
well, but more to the point, the difficulty is legislatively, municipalities that collect that revenue have to direct that back into speed enforcement. And that's one of the other challenges that we have sitting around this table. One, we can't run deficit budgets. We have to balance our budget. Upper levels don't seem to understand that concept, but we have to live by that rule. As Walter said, we really only can generate revenue through direct taxation of our property owners. And the third challenge that we face is oftentimes our hands are tied by that province in terms of how we can spend the money that we do collect. So, you know, it's just, I don't want anybody leaving with the impression that, you know, we're sort of sitting on a gold mine here and just, you know, being greedy and not handing money out to the food bank. I mean, it's not a matter of that. If you know, we could give 3 times that, and not, you know, have that be an issue. We would. I'm sure we would. But I think it was an important point that Councillor Sample raised too. You know, we have to be careful that, yes, all of us in this room are taxpayers, but I'm sure a lot of your clients are taxpayers as well. And, you know, there may be a point where that you know, scale tips, where the taxes just get too high. And then that's one more thing added to their pressure at the end of the month they have to come up with to pay. So
Maybe, it may not be too in that same breath, right? And I think that we know what we're doing so far has gotten to a point where we know we need to do more, right? So I just think that what we're doing right now is not working. It's not, I think I know, what we're doing right now is not working. And we need to try to find a way to do it in a different manner, and 100% we're going to need support from this council, there's no question. You know, I again respect the fact that revenues come in limited ways. To echo Artist's sentiment, there's lots of ways, or you know, the old saying, "There's more than one way to skin a cat." Doesn't have to be, you know, doesn't have to be looking at a 1% increase of being here. There's other ways that we can look, and we'd love to be part of that partnership and try to help them.
I mean, having food and basic shelter, like if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there it is, right in the basic. And I mean, there is a difference between needs and wants. And I think that's important for people to understand, that addressing the needs is critical right now. It's critical across the province, but more importantly, it's critical in Shelburne right now.
in terms of partnerships, are there any opportunities to work with other, like the other food banks in the area, like within Dufferin County, but even without you know, outside of you.
Well, we,
Allison,
we're in
Allison's
connection
close.
with, Orangeville Food Bank, they sent out their list today, like they send a list of what they have excess of, and if it's things that we are looking for, then you can speak to it and get it. It does mean another trip down, it means having a vehicle, and so, you know, we're hoping to do more of that, and we're also in connection with Allison Food Bank as well.
So also, I know Ardith mentioned Chair the Matthews become a great partner with us as well, and has been able to provide all kinds of, whether it's through food rescue or, food, different food drives, and that sort of thing, has been a great partner for us as well, so.
The only trouble with food rescue is the majority of the food rescue has to go out that week, so it has to go out, that's why we do it, we start at 8 AM on Wednesdays when we go out, so that we can use it on the Wednesday and Thursday of that month. That particular week, so we're doing that all the time, but the majority has to be in and out that week.
And of course, we're limited as to what we can take on because we're limited in space.
Yeah.
We have to be able to store it all before we get it. So,
I'm not sure if you've looked through the balance of our agenda tonight, if you haven't, I don't blame you for that. But there are a couple of points that are pertinent to this. One is our grant funding review committee is coming back with a recommendation. The recommendation with respect to your main funding ask, that 15,000, the recommendation for the committee is that we'll fund that in full. The second item is a notice of motion from Councillor Bichardi, which suggests the council consider funding the van contribution as a separate line item in this year's budget, pulling it out of the grant funding process and considering that as part of our 2025 budget process.
As part of the grant funding committee's recommendations, rather than it goes through the budget process.
So there's a couple of other items that are coming up here tonight.
excellent.
Look at. Beyond that, anything else at this point? No. So the draft motion contained in the agenda simply was to receive the presentation. That's fine. I would like to add to that though, if we could ask staff to maybe put some analysis together and come back as part of the budget process, just in terms of a report. Is that okay, timing wise? So just add that to the motion, we ask staff to bring a report back, part of our process. Okay, is there anybody who would like to make a motion in that regard? Mr. Bichardi, seconded by Councillor Wagner. All in favor? Carried. All right. Well, thank you all. And in the meantime, thanks for everything you do. And
Thank you.
the
Thank you all
discussion will
very much.
continue.
We appreciate your time so much.
Thank you, Jim, for doing the pictures. All right. Appreciate it. Yeah, and no space.
We're getting there.
Thanks again. Bye. Have a great
Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Tina, it's up to you if you want to come up and sit.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll know next time I'm not sure if it's two, then send a message and make it one more. You want me to come down and sit with you too? It's up to you, if you'd like to, Walter, you're more than welcome.
I'll be
We have to leave some up here.
Yeah.
Is that it? Not.
Yes, that's it. I didn't hear back from Althea, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I know she was a little ill, so could be have something to do with that effect as well.
So for those who haven't met Jeff Deason is our newly minted chair of the Shelburne Police Service Board, joined by Tina Hinsberger. Ryan Marinelli, right?
Yeah.
Was just elected as our vice chair. He's away on business. And then rounding out the board is Councilor Bernardo, myself, and Deputy Mayor Hall. Chair Deason is going to provide some thoughts and insights on what board's doing. So turn it over to you.
Perfect. So good evening, council, and thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Shelburne OPP Detachment Services Board 2. Myself, Jeff is the chair, Ryan Marinelli, the vice chair, Nicole Hill, the secretary, Tina Hinsberger, the community member and committee member as well, Althea Ali, our provincial appointee, as well as community member, Walter Benetto, council member and committee member as well, Shane Hall, council and committee member as well, and Wade Mills, council and committee member as well. Sorry, I don't know if you have an application. Oh, apologies, I'll be patient. So you'll have to forgive me, council, but there were some updates that were required for this presentation, and unfortunately I was unable to submit those updates in a timely manner. So I'll go through the documentation, and if there are any questions, feel free to ask along the way. I'd like to begin by discussing, so we can go to the second slide. That's great. I'd like to begin by discussing the Community Safety and Policing Act, or CSPA, which officially came into effect on April 1st of 2020. This legislation marks a significant shift in how policing is governed across Ontario, replacing the previous Police Services Act. The CSPA brings important changes aimed at increasing policing oversight, improving accountability, and ensuring better training standards for all officers. These changes are designed to address gaps in the previous system and to enhance the transparency in how law enforcement operates within our communities. For us here at Shelburne, the CSPA is particularly relevant because it places a strong emphasis on collaboration between municipalities, law enforcement, and community safety partners. The establishment of the Shelburne OPP Detachment Services Board 2 under the new Act helps ensure the governance and accountability are upheld locally. Our immediate focus since April has been to align our governance framework with requirements under the CSPA. We held an initial meeting in July to review governance framework, ensuring that we have a solid foundation moving forward. This framework allows us to meet the standards set by the Act while ensuring the effective management of our local policing. On September 17th, 2024, with the approval of the OASB directors, we have since ratified our governance and, as discussed previously, elected the individuals mentioned earlier. Moving forward, we're committing to working closely with Town Council and other stakeholders to ensure these new standards are successfully implemented. Next slide. Following the overview of the Community Safety and Policing Act, I'd like to discuss how the Dufferin OPP Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan aligns with the principles outlined within the Act. As mandated by the CSPA, the responsibility of developing, implementing the CSWP Community Safety Wellness Plan within the Town of Shelburne rests with Town Council. The Council plays a critical role in driving this plan forward, ensuring that it addresses the specific safety and wellbeing needs of our community. The CSWP is designed to proactively address the risks that lead to crime and social disorder, making it essential that the Council leads these efforts with strong oversight and engagement from all sectors. The CSWP is an initiative that brings together law enforcement, community organizations, and residents to create a comprehensive approach to the safety and well-being. However, ultimately, accountability for its success lies with this Council. There are several key focus areas within the CSWP. Crime prevention. Through public education, community engagement, and environmental design, we aim to prevent crime before it occurs. Mental health and addictions. By providing support for individuals struggling with mental health and substance abuse, we address two critical factors affecting our overall community safety. Youth engagement. Addressing issues related to education and social inclusion reduces the risk of youth involvement in crime, ensuring better outcomes for future generations. Vulnerable populations. Protecting our most vulnerable groups, including seniors, homeless, and individuals with disabilities, is central to the plan, ensuring they receive the resources and services they need. Emergency preparedness. Strengthening our community's ability to respond to emergencies is essential to safeguarding all residents. The success of the CSWP hinges on effective collaboration, but this Council must ensure the plan is fully supported, implemented, and evaluated to meet the town and its county's goals. Our OPP Police Services Board 2 ultimate objectives are to reduce crime, improve social outcomes, build stronger public trust in law enforcement and community partnerships. Without council's leadership and oversight, we cannot achieve the safer, healthier, and more resilient community that Dufferin County and the town of Shelburne deserve. As this council's term, along with the Shelburne OPP Detachment Board Services Board 2 concludes in 2026, we must begin to prepare for the re-election of members of the OPP Detachment Board, as outlined within our governance framework. It is the board's goal to have all compliance matters finalized well in advance to ensure smooth transition from the current board to the incoming members. Unfortunately, we were not afforded the same courtesy during our own transition, which led to delays in addressing key items. Our intention is to prevent a repeat of such disruptions, ensuring that the next board is equipped, continue progressing seamlessly from the outset. At this time, I welcome any questions brought forward from the council.
All right, any questions? Yeah. You have been,
No?
see the wheels spinning there.
No, I'm just looking at it too, so, sorry, I'm sitting under.
Is it the smoke coming in?
Yeah, no, crime prevention. And you're saying that that is also, I mean, it is part of what council's responsibility is, but a lot of those initiatives are engaged at the OPP level, so going into the schools and doing the presentations. So I wanted to maybe get some clarity on what council's role would be aside from public relations component that we do in terms of our online presence and what staff is distributing in terms of, crime prevention information. So what is it that you are seeing in terms of the role aside from that?
Certainly. So initially, what I'd like to do is, because of my newly election role, I have yet to have an opportunity to sit down with the detachment commander to align our priorities with the detachment commander. So before speaking on behalf of that interaction with that meeting, I'd like to be able to have that opportunity to ensure that, our goals and our foresight is aligned together. Also in conjunction, I've reached out to the Dufferin Community Safety and Wellbeing table. And I've had interactions with the chair of that table as well. So I've taken certain steps to begin engagement. I think from town council in this respect, I think the only ask that I would have is that more active communication begin to occur. There have been several opportunities for us to get ahead of certain criteria. Unfortunately, we weren't offered the opportunity to get in front of that criteria in a timely manner. So because of that, it's caused certain delays. And so with respect to that, I would appreciate if I could have the opportunity to meet with the commander to determine those priorities and then draw back a follow-up meeting with council at that time and continue that conversation. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that was just gonna be my question as to what they want, the board wants of us, and so, more communication.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the easiest way. I think that we can start off is communication. I think effectively we have had several opportunities where we had an ability to get ahead of certain criteria and due to some missed interaction, whether it be on the board's part or on the council's part is irrelevant. At the end of the day, we're just trying to streamline that communication and make sure that we have that one-to-one conversation a little more frequently. Because I think that there's an opportunity for us to share, data, information, so you guys are more well-informed as well about what's going on.
So does that mean like sort of email type communication? Should we have them as like a delegation more often? How would we facilitate that as well?
Or is it through?
Through people,
Well, I mean,
communications in general?
simple way is through board minutes.
Right, okay,
Well, it's also as board members, it's.
right, maybe bring
three
it to
council
us
members.
during council inquiries or something.
And if there's something really important, Jeff will be happy to come directly to council.
Right.
And present to council. It's no different, I don't think that if you have the fire chief or a rep from the conservation authority come here or whatever, it's the same scenario.
Right.
He is the chair So he's always willing to come in front of council and give us any presentation of anything really important that needs to communicate with council. And we should be open to receiving him.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, I don't think anybody would be against that.
Yeah, one of the things that I had spoken to, Inspector Deep Scully about when he first was named to that position, you know, was maybe having him to council on a regular basis, you know, whether that's twice a year, once a year, you know, doesn't really matter. But I think maybe having the board chair and attachment commander come by, updates to council and then allow for that two-way discussion as well, I think is probably the way of those lines of communication.
Well, that way too, if there's a request of us, we can address it, right?
Well,
And appreciating that it's very new
Yeah.
to you right now, so, you know, we're not gonna, don't ask really.
Oh, I encourage you, so to council, I spent the better half of my week last week at the police, the safety of our communities conference held by Peel Regional Police. And within it, they spoke several times to the CSWP, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, and Wellness Plan, my apologies. And during that time frame, even as a community member, I felt a little misinformed as to what I need to be focusing on. And so by taking that step and going to that conference, I felt that there was a substantial amount of information that we could take steps moving forward. So I would absolutely love to be able to come back once we've had our priorities kind of outlined with the detachment commander and bring that forward to council. Effectively what today is to reinvigorate the conversation around the CSPA that came into act as to April 1st, but also discuss the CSWP and draw that alignment together that the board is focusing heavily in that regard.
Councilor Sample, sorry.
Just a quick question, how many times a year do you guys meet now?
So as it stands right now, we meet 4 times a year. That's really subjective, like it's determined based on the necessity. So if there's a requirement for additional meetings, which there has been in regards to trying to ratify our governance, trying to gain certain criteria in the background as well, insurance, etc. We've had to kind of come together and get those meetings completed. So there have been more meetings this year, and we are still yet to see potentially another one before the end of this year. I know we have a budget discussion that needs to happen on October 15th, as we need to have that down to council early meeting.
4 is the statutory.
I knew that.
You never got off that easy.
I knew that. So I was just saying, it's a lot of work that that's there that you see on your plate.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked how many times you guys plan, like, requirement minimum is 4. To get all that work done, there's gonna be.
It's a Herculean lift.
It's gonna be an increase.
Yeah, and thank you for that note. I do appreciate that, Councilor Sample. I would echo that comment. That is a Herculean lift.
Yeah.
But it's something that we're committed to for our community and for the detachment. And I know council will support us along the way as well in that direction.
Well, it's refreshing to see somebody at the helm that is willing to take it on and has already shown the initiative with going to the meeting and whatnot that you were at, or the conference that you were at, and coming here already as well. So that's a good first step.
Thank you.
You should have heard what he said when we asked him to be chair. He said, I'll be chair as long as all the rest of you work just as hard as I do.
Okay?
We don't expect anything less from our council.
There you go, exactly.
Excellent.
I should make that request in some of the things I'm.
So I plan on seeing more of.
I would encourage that interaction. I created this, I came to this thought process as coming out to see council and introduce the updated membership. And again, to kind of re-drive back the importance of this discussion, and making sure that the plans and all these items are kept in mind.
That's important in order to move forward.
He keeps my email box full, trust me.
That's good.
And
That is,
no,
that is good.
it's a lot of work of reading and catching up, like even the governance material he just sent out and everything else.
Well, I think even, myself, speaking as just a resident of the town, there's things that I don't know either, right? That would be nice, like you said, you felt a little bit like you didn't know what you had access to or what you know, as a resident, I would agree, right? I had no idea, so.
I definitely
Yeah.
didn't know, what was entitled as a board member, but, I'm sure learning fast.
It's exciting time and I'm looking forward to coming back and continuing the conversation and developing and building a relationship with council for
Perfect,
Good stuff.
excellent, thank you for your hard work so far.
Yeah, it's got a lot of hard work. Can I have a motion to proceed?
Just one quick point, you will notice on the town council website, we will be uploading all of our minutes more frequently. You will also notice some transparency coming from the board. Our governance ratification will also be posted as well for this meeting. Just code of conduct that we should share as well and will also be public.
Perfect.
All
We're all about transparency.
Motion moved by Sample, seconded by Donato. All right, all in favor? Carried. All right, thank you both.
Thank you for your time, council.
See you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
All right, council inquiries. Short debate clock. Council started.
I'll keep them quick and to the point. There's two on just shout outs. First of all, shout out to Mary Crawford, Sue Peterson, Lindsay Wagner, Kelsey Phillips, and all the volunteers at the Shelburne Fair. It was a wonderful success. Shout out to Taylor Wallace and the Wallace family for a very successful Terry Fox run. So far they've raised over $11,000 if I'm not mistaken, and I know the high school is running their Terry Fox event this Thursday, so there will be additional funding there. Second grouping has to do with signage. Really quick, any way we can make the sign a no left turn from William to Main Street any bigger, more prominent, maybe some.
I tried to get a blinking light, you see there is a blinking light.
Yeah, there is, no, I'm just, people
Nobody-
don't see it or don't wanna see
Don't
it,
care.
or I think they just don't care, and with the instruction coming down and going. No place to go, not knowing it's a left, anyway, that was one. The other one, the rest of the signage for the town of Shelburne, the welcome signs, are they still in process?
Through your worship, yes.
Okay.
We still get those permissions from MZO and county. We're at 124, but yes.
Okay, that's fine. The one on Victoria looks incredible and. The rest of them.
It's a big improvement.
It is. Okay, yeah, there was that, those were the two big ones. We kind of addressed I guess we'll address that when we talk about the, report from the charitable. Okay, that's it?
Okay. Thanks, Donato.
My inquiry, Jim, maybe you can answer it for me, is I noticed a lot of stakes where trees were cut down at people's, on our property, but at people's front yards, for trees. When are we planting them?
Through your worship, that should be this fall. With the tree plantings, the trees can't go back in the same spot due to the sun. Even though it's round, there's still too much there. But yeah, that should still be up for this fall.
And do the homeowners get a choice of trees, or is it whatever we decide?
Through your worship, we do have our list, but it is what decide. Typically, it's what came out of that area.
I was just gonna say, usually it's.
So if it was an ash, for example, that died, we're not putting another ash back.
No, we've tried to diversify a little bit. We do have a bug that moves through in a few years, and it's not the ash borer. We don't use everything. It's some kind of maple infestation or something like that.
No, I just, there's one right in front of me actually in the lawn, and it was an ash tree, and I just was hoping you weren't gonna put another ash tree back since that one had died due to the ash borer. It didn't make a lot of sense. That's why I asked the question. Do the homeowners get a choice, or do we decide, hopefully not another ash borer?
You can't have a pond here.
No.
Can't have
No, you have a tree.
Come on. No, I was hoping for another beautiful maple, actually, maybe sugar maple or
Peach
something.
tree.
Eh?
Peach tree.
Not sugar maple. It fits with mine in the backyard.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, I have a couple of good news announcements related to staff. So Alice Weil has recently graduated from the AMCTO program, and she received her diploma in municipal administration. But even more than that, I guess through your graduation, you're also inducted into the academic honor roll. So congratulations. And secondly, Michael Fonzo from our bylaw department has achieved his formal municipal law enforcement officer certificate, I guess, designation. Maybe you can speak a little bit more to what that means, or just.
That was almost 2 years of training.
Okay.
In regards to property standards and municipal law enforcement in general. Has passed that course and has a formal designation.
Excellent. All right. So congrats to Michael, who also just welcomed his second child. So, yeah, so.
A lot of sleep.
Big couple of weeks for Mike.
A lot of sleepless nights. Maybe we'll put him on night duty.
He may welcome that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
All right, so on to our regular report. So the first report is from our Director of Development and Operations regarding Victoria Street speed zones.
Through your worship, as of July 2021, the town of Shelburne reduced all speeds on all town streets to 40 kilometers an hour. This was followed up early this year after consultations with the Ministry of Transportation to reduce speed on the connecting link, and now that has also been followed by the County of Dufferin for sections of County Road 111 and 124. These changes did require some adjustments with Ministry of Transportation speed zones approaching town, just to transition safely to the lower speed limit of 40 kilometers an hour. Similarly, the south end of Victoria Street now requires the same adjustments, just not to have that direct drop from 80 to 40. This would give it a buffer zone there to allow people to safely slow down and make fun of under. We did meet with, staff did meet with the County of Dufferin there, and they are willing to allow us a 60 ahead sign further south, 150 to 200 meters south, just to get our timing increments in there. So we dropped to 40 right at the 30 side road or our town limit. Then there'd be a 40 ahead sign, and then just after our new sign that we've installed there for the town of Shelburne, that's where the 40 would start there. So we did meet with their staff on September 21st, 2024. The county road is it is saying 60. It doesn't turn it at 40 on the county road till over by Blue Mountain Plastics. So that works well with their speed limit on their road too. It gives them a warning that going around the corner, it's going to be a 60 as well. So. Yeah, it's minimal costs under financial implications. We do have to change our speed bylaw that we have currently just to reflect that change. Consultations were with the manager of operations at Cleat with the County of Dufferin and our director of legislative services with the town. This does align with council's strategic priorities under SP2, investing in critical infrastructure and services for the future. Appendix 1 has a drawing just to show where these zones would be located. And Appendix 2 is the bylaw for consideration.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any questions on that one?
Just a quick question, Jim, have we had any success with MTO regarding Highway 89 from into town? I mean, we go from an 80 to a 50, basically, there's no real drop in there. And similar to what we're trying to do with the other roads, and I think it's almost similar from the other way as well.
Through your worship, we did have discussions with MTO. We did request to push that zone further out to the east end of town.
specifically, that didn't go over well with MTO, they went to say they are there, so doesn't look like there'll be any changes there. There was some minor changes on the other end of town with signage as well, but it's pretty much the same as it was.
Why am I not surprised that deal doesn't like any changes?
Okay, oh,
I'm
Councillor
sorry, just a kind of a related question, in regard to, County Road 11, or Dutton Road 11, which is 40 now. And that's supposed to be for 3 years until we get all the development done, is that still on?
I believe it wasn't, the county was gonna look at it again in 18 months, I believe it was, just to evaluate whether the 40 was working, how effectively it was working.
Yeah.
Just a bit of context on that, Councillor Pichardi, that the staff report we received from the county engineer didn't recommend change on a technical basis, but council made the decision. But in making the decision, decided to review it.
Okay. Okay, because it says here, Side Road Highway 89, Dutton Road 124, between Highway 89 and Lawrence Road Way for 3 years until the town of Shelburne infrastructure is in place. I'm going for,
Through your worship, I don't know, that might be county.
okay, all right, that was on note, a letter from the county, and it does say in that letter that 18 months, there'll be a review. So, okay. So everybody isn't gonna yell at us, because it wasn't our fault necessarily that we reduced that to the county.
If they stop speeding,
Yeah, oh, I agree.
we wouldn't have to.
Okay, any more questions for Jim on this one? Okay, so I have a motion then to receive the report and provide for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 38-2024, which is the bylaw to amend this meeting. Councillor Pichardi. Seconder, Councillor Sample, all in favor? Carried. All right, next one is also from Jim. It's regarding an update on our trail request for quotes.
Yes, through your worship. Request for quotes for the Trails project did close September 5th, 2024. The RFQ is for widening and paving of current trails, plus construction of new trail linkages throughout town. 4 proposals were received by the closing date, and they are listed in Appendix 1. The lowest quote was from GIP Paving, Inc. They have done work for the town in the past, and staff would suggest that it be awarded to this company. The approved budget for this project was $671,000, and the lowest quote that came in was $500,000, $588,874, 41 HST inclusive. The lowest quote is under budget. However, this is slightly over staff's awarding authority through our purchasing policy. So we just like to inform the council that of this award of this project. Consultations were with Espernet and Associates, as well as town staff, our Director of Financial Services, and our Manager of Operations, Parks and Facilities. This does align with council priorities, SB2, investing critical infrastructure for services and future. And Appendix 1 is a bid summary from Espernet and Associates.
Okay. Questions on this one?
Paving is full paving, or is that the road? Originally, we had discussed the road asphalt.
This would be actually asphalt paving. We do have the grindings coming off Owen Sound Street to use up on trails as well. In the future, we want to go back laneways, areas that are washing out, but this is for asphalt paving.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
So I know GIP has done workforce in the past here, but there seems to be in some cases some fairly substantial gaps between some of the quotes, some of the areas. So we're gonna get what we're paying for, right? So I just wanna make sure that, cause you look at one quote here, it's 55, well, 54.5, and the other ones came in at 77, so that's quite a big difference that I see in the bids. Some of them are bang on, when you got 25, 27, 29, 31, so they're not far off. But when you start looking at some of these, there's some big differences there. So we have people that are gonna, our crew is gonna be checking this, make sure it's to what our standard is, that
Yes.
going across here, so.
For your worship, yes, there'll be an SBA inspector circulating through our projects in town, as well as our own staff as well, right on top of the project. We are finding, depends on how busy the company is who's quoted. If they're flush with business, they tend to put in a higher quote. But we are finding that things have settled down in the asphalt end of it at least. Not so much building construction, but throughout the height that we're seeing in COVID, it's kind of eased out, so I'm happy to see that.
Good.
If you're really busy, they don't want the job, you put in the high quote, provide.
I get that, but the other numbers are showing similar prices. There's a few differences in some of the trails. Big. That was my question.
They hope by putting in on certain ones a little lower quote, more regular, that, you know, maybe we'll suck it in and take the one.
Okay, can I have a motion then to receive the report, noting that GIP is the lowest qualified submission. Therefore, the award goes to them in the amount of $578,689.48 plus HST. Councilor Donato, by Councilor Bichardi. In favor? That's carried. Okay, thanks, Jim. Next is a report from our CAO regarding a hiring policy.
Thank you, Mary Mills, and through yourself, I just wanted to note that this report was prepared working with my colleague, who is our HR coordinator, Mr. Mark Gray, who is with us. So if there's any questions here, I'm happy to take them. So with respect to a hiring policy, there are a number of policies, and this was also outlined in the council training that we had with Nigel Chambers and Fred Dean on what council is required to approve. So while we do have a hiring policy that was embedded in our 2008 HR guidelines and policy, it is fairly dated. I would say it's exceptionally dated, as are the majority of resources within that document. And our HR coordinator, as was identified in our service delivery review, has been working for the last while in an update of many of our policies to ensure that they're not only compliant with legislation, but they're a reflection of the type of, I guess, HR protocols and the leadership that we'd like to have reflected in everything we do. So in isolation, as is required, there is a recommended hiring policy. It certainly has been looked at with respect to best practices. Many of the municipalities and their processes were reviewed. It is applicable to all of council with respect to compliance and adherence. It doesn't apply to your position, but it also is a testament as well to the public and to the community and to those that we're hiring on what our expectations are, how our process is outlined, and specifically how that is anchored in fair treatment of all candidates. It provides the level of transparency in terms of process that all municipalities are expected to comply with. And it certainly outlines, as I summarized, in the scope of what the policy is comprised of without going into every single element. If you have questions, I'm happy to do a deeper dive. But certainly you want to have a purpose, we've got the scope, the definitions are fairly common. Where the legislative requirements are, we're updating, and it is it's something that we're undertaking across. And again, as the SDR noted, this was a critical area of our services in municipalities that we needed to move forward. Eligibility is another strong component of ensuring that people understand the process under which they're applying. We are proud to be what we believe is an employer of choice. I think we've demonstrated that with respect to how many people are choosing to work with us and are excited to be part of our staff team. The responsibilities are also critical because it lays out what our expectations are, both from the employer's perspective as well as those potential employees. The recruitment process is fairly prescriptive. So most people will see that there will be an interview.
there will be a posting that you may not apply after closing. There will be segments within that process and how it's outlined, so it's step by step. While it may be expanded or retracted partially, that is the process. We're proud to say in our statements that we're an equal opportunity employer, that we also provide accommodations for all those that choose to work with us, as well as through the employment process. The application process should always be confidential, and we pride ourselves in that commitment to those that are applying, and it is retained by those people that are part of the process only. This is new. We have to actually acknowledge now, and we think it's a very strategic thing to ensure, is that there are municipalities or there are employers, maybe larger than municipalities, that may be using artificial intelligence. There's some inherent biases and concerns with that process, so we've ensured that people know that there's still a balance with respect to that process. And then we also have provided a general resource area. These are not static policies. So what we need to always remind, and this is why council's approving it, is that if there are significant changes in legislation that make part of this erroneous or now defunct, we would come back with an update to council. With your approval, this will be posted on the website. This will be circulated to all of our staff, and it will also be a link with every single application and posting that we undertake on behalf of the shopper. So I think I've covered all of it. Certainly within council's priorities, you actually had a priority where you wanted us to build a very responsive organization. So this is part of that, that commitment. And also we've done, I think, a tremendous testament, if that's the word, to how this community is a very diverse community and how we as an employer are also there as part of our, I guess, approach to ensure that we are promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion through the hiring process and through our overall staffing team and the employment opportunities that we're providing. So with that, happy to answer your question. The recommendation is self-explanatory. We'd like you to approve the hiring policy, and then at the same time, we need to rescind the very dated 2008 policy, which this is embedded in. And then as there will be any policies that require council approval through the HR realm will be brought back to you, but those are exceptionally limited, and it's primarily an administrative protocol. The majority of our HR policies are within my bailiwick. And what I will also note, just a la carte, is that as a municipality under a certain threshold, you would not be a strong mayor's designation. If that ever changed, there would be elements of this policy, specifically that the legislative, I guess, oversight that strong mayors allows, would change drastically in some cases. But until that happens, this is policy.
Don't see that happening.
Well, we have to be over 50,000. That may take a while.
All right, questions on the hiring policy, Councilor Donato?
Not a question on the hiring policy, it's a comment. When you hire new employees, is it possible that they get introduced to council from time to time? Because other than if I come in this building and wander around all over the place, I would never meet them. And this is the first time I've met our HR person. So I'm just wondering, it was a time when they would be introduced to council, so at least if we walked in and, you know, wanted to talk to somebody, we knew a face that we were talking to. Just wondering if that's a possibility.
What we've done is when we hire somebody new, we do circulate to council who we hired. And if you wish to meet them, I would suggest you come in and meet with them. We have a lot of people that they may have commitments at night on a Monday night, unless we coordinate with them. I would like to ask staff first as well, whether or not that's a protocol they would like to include. But I'm more than happy, or I mean, all of us are, if you would like to meet that person after we've introduced every single new hire we've had, please just come in and we'll introduce you to them.
Well, even if they were introduced via Zoom, they don't have to come in on a Monday night.
I think it's under our belt that we take the responsibility to, so if they recommend they hire a new person, you wanna meet that person, it should be you coming into to town hall to meet.
And I don't have anything else to do with my time, other than come in and meet every year.
Stop being periodic.
Again, a Monday night may not be something that the person who has other commitment is able to easily attend. If that's an employment opportunity, so then we would have to schedule them being employed. So I think, you know, we are circulating every single person we hired in their position, generally provide some generic background. If you could happen to be, because some people actually are working midnight till 4 AM or 5 AM or 6 AM. If, just please let the director of the department where that individual is employed, and part of that staff team, and we'll certainly introduce you to them. We're a small corporation, we have under 50 full-time staff, and we have a number of staff that are decentralized, they're not necessarily at town.
No, I know we have the works department
Outstanding.
and other places on it.
So we haven't hired a lot of new people recently, so.
It's just, like I said. I don't know. Sometimes I'm not up to date on who's working on the roof.
So we'll, with 2025 budget, I'll have the organizational chart in it again, and that's a pretty clear path to what positions work within which departmental area. And usually it will also identify directly who the supervisor is for that team. So it starts literally with council, my position, the directors. It's not an enormous team. And we only really have 3 locations where our staff work out of. So again, if there's anybody you'd like to meet, just pop by or let us know you're coming and we'll coordinate that.
On the night,
We'll get it figured out.
yeah. Very good.
Quick question. Do we have a day set aside for staff appreciation events? You know, I know we did something small with the crossing guards, we do something small with kind of departmentally. Is there like a staff appreciation day?
We did that once, like a barbecue for the public works, and we did it down at Public Works during the day so that they, when they went during the.
Was that a
good weather.
retirement?
Eh?
That was a retirement party.
Well, no, we did do,
Yeah, exactly.
we did that one, but we've done it beyond that. Because
Just out of
I
curiosity.
remember being told that some of them felt like they were frogs in a frog pond, and nobody ever went to see them.
Like frogs.
So,
Right.
do you want me to address the question?
Just real quick, yeah.
So part of our commitment is staff engagement and staff recognition. So we have a holiday party or party dinner where we actually participate. Staff actually celebrate their achievements, and that is a staff driven function. So there's recognition on years of service, there's formalization, closed for lunch, and people attend on their own lunchtime and meetings. That's part of staff's engagement. There are certain things that happen within certain segments. So for example, called Public Works Week, our Department of Development Operations formally within our HR budget, that is recognition. The other thing in the town hall side of it is Administrative Professionals Day week. That's sort of recognized as well. And then there's subsets of each department that they will recognize and create, an alliance with their own staff colleagues as required.
But there's nothing wherever council can go down and
Yeah.
say staff appreciation, that's the divide. We're like, out of it.
It would be nice to know if, there's like, for example, the staff appreciation. I mean, I'm always looking for a free meal. But if we get an invite to that event.
We're beginning to veer a little bit from the
Okay.
policy, but
Yeah.
let's just bring it back. I mean, if that's something the council's interested in, I think we can have a chat about that.
Through your worship, if you're attending tomorrow's training, you would be an ability to do that.
Okay, yay.
Bonus. There you go. All in one room. All right, can I have a motion to receive the report regarding the hiring policy and to provide for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 39-2024, which is the bylaw to adopt the new policy and rescind bylaw number 49-2000. Wagner, Councillor Sample, all in favor? It's carried. All right, does anybody need a quick break or forge ahead?
We're almost
Okay,
there.
all right. Next is the memo from our grant funding evaluation committee, which is a member of one for tonight.
Yeah. So basically, in the memo that we provided to council, states that we took the federal cat rescue funding. We have a line item already in the budget. It's been there for years. And So we did not apply any grant funding there. We already have that, line budget item. The Shepherd Food submitted an application for 10,000 and we gave them 15. So we're really based this year on food, and that goes for the Christmas hampers and anything that's food related. That's where the majority of the grant money went towards. That was our intent this year. The ban, we feel, is not something that the grant committee felt comfortable with. That should be something that comes through the budgeting process. It's something that council needs to discuss. There's still, the grant committee had a lot of questions. For example, yes, even if we put money towards funding of the ban, there's additional costs that are probably there on top of that, that we have at this time no idea what they might be or anything of that. So, that may be something that I'm not even sure that they know at this point, what they may be running into. Classic example, if you looked at tonight's pictures, you saw raw meat there, you saw frozen food there, you have a insulated van without any form of cooling system on it. And yet you're delivering from Honeywood to I don't know where, and you've got stuff that may not make it during a day out in a hot summer 30-degree day from one point to the other. So insurance, drivers, 12 drivers, insurance, I don't know. There's a lot of questions in our mind as well. It's not just $10,000. How much down the road, how much are we running, you know? And I know the deputy mayor had some other questions that I can't even give you tonight in regards to that. I'd rather let him speak about it. So let it go through the budgeting process, let it be spoken through the budgeting process. And we have an opportunity there then to have staff maybe do some additional work. Plus, you know, we can ask questions and get the answers. So I felt it's fair that, as well as the deputy mayor, that was a process it should go through. And we did keep a small reserve back after we went through all of it. And again, that may be for additional food funding as time goes on, with maybe additional needs that come forward to us. We felt that we needed to keep it just a little bit back, not knowing what may happen down the road. So that's basically the report on the grant. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to try and answer for you.
Good, thank you. Questions for Councilor Bernardo? Councilor Picard?
Just a real quick one, the feral cat rescue, I just wanted more of a comment. $1,500 on the budget line isn't necessarily a huge amount of money for what they do, and I'm wondering if we can make a note to look at the possibility of increasing that budget line as we come up to the budget season.
That would be a part of the budget process.
I think once we get into those discussions and are reviewing particular line items, I mean, if you want to bring a motion to increase that, then by all means, yeah.
That was actually gonna be my question as well.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like if she's coming through the grant process and asking for say 3,000, and then we're gonna say, well, no, we're not gonna give you, you know, the 3,000 because you're a budget line item, then we might need, excuse me, to look at that budget line item, because as she, you know, mentioned to us, $65,000 in veterinary bills. So, you know, I understand that, again, we draw from the tax base, but just a little bit of an increase will at least help her.
Yeah. Good. And the only other thing, which I think is consistent with the way we normally do it, any amount over $5,000 that isn't for a specific dated event, it gets spread out over 4 installments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which just helps with cash flow a little bit.
Carrie would slap my hands if we did anything.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I'm satisfied with that. I think focus on you know, the organizations that are trying to help with food security probably should be where our focus is. So I'm satisfied with it. Any other thoughts? Yeah, sure.
Just have a question. So I'm just with the Trinity Primrose United Church and giving them $21.90 for the same type of stuff that the food bank's doing, or this one item was for a freezer, I think.
They do a little bit different than what the food bank, from what we got when we heard that explanation.
Well, I'm reading what they got and I was here for it, and they do exactly what the food bank does.
Yeah.
They're taking food rescue from, and they're taking food rescue.
Yeah, but they're also cooking the food or doing something there, and people are able to.
They're doing it,
They do prepare.
They do prepare meals, so that's the difference, and that's the reason we chose to go in that direction with them.
So the freezer is going where? I never got an answer when we looked at it, so.
I don't think
I don't
there
believe
is an
that's
answer
true
yet.
yet.
Yeah.
And my suspicion is probably without the funding, there would be no freezer.
Yeah.
And all, so, yeah, I mean, I agree, because it's new, I think that's something that we probably look for some more heavy duty reporting on.
I asked for some more clarity too, because if they're gonna, if the freezer is being, if they're coming to us for 2159, I hope the freezer's coming into Sheldon.
Well, I hope so too.
You know what I mean, or are they putting it in permanents?
No.
Questions?
Yeah.
Am I assuming that the church is in the wrong place?
That's all I was gonna say, I would assume it would be at the church. Right, that they would put at the church.
My recollection of their presentation is it's local to Shelburne. It's Trinity United Church in Shelburne.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the privilege to have, they just renamed it.
Yeah, that's what I thought, that's what, so I don't do my head here, so.
Okay,
That's the one that's just right there.
Right, it is, yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Bernardo, do you wanna make a motion then?
I'll make a
Okay, so receive the memo and include the recommendations contained in the memo in our draft budget. Moved by Councilor Bernardo, seconded by Councilor Bouchard. All in favor? It's carried. All right, and the last item on the actual regular agenda is just a bylaw to formally appoint our new fire chief. The new fire chief, David Pratt, actually started today. It was his first day on the job. And this is just, I guess each municipality who's a member of the Shelburne District Fire Board has to adopt a similar bylaw. So just need a motion to allow for that bylaw. Councilor Bernardo, second by Councilor Wagner. In favor? It's carried. Okay. All right, next is the notice of motion, which was referenced earlier from Councilor Ghishardi.
Do we need it as with the memo already from the charity committee doing the same recommendation?
No, this is more of an official request.
Yeah, and I think it sort of spells out the need. You're okay considering this at the next council
Yeah,
meeting?
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so the motion is there. I won't read through it in detail tonight. We'll do that at the next meeting. And then essentially, I mean, if it passes, then that'll kind of be referred to the budget process. Okay. Any other notices of motion? Okay, on to communications. Councilor Bernardo.
That's great. Number 3, the proposed 2025 regular council dates. I noticed that every month we have a Zoom meeting.
That is the suggestion, that we do one in person and one virtual. And so, I mean, we have some time to talk about it.
Is there a specific reason for that though, or just?
Like, I don't
care.
Well, I think it makes life slightly easier for some staff.
And
who
it
are
does
traveling.
open up the hall should somebody.
Yeah.
I
One of the other things, one of the big, rationales that we had talked about was, in-person meetings allow people to come in. And since we've started meeting again, nobody's coming. It's not like
It's not.
pre-COVID when we were having 4 or 5 people from the press.
Yeah.
Regular people coming in. I mean, the only people we have had show up to meetings are those who are either delegating or, specifically here for an event. And I think the intent would be if we balance it this way, there is still one in-person meeting a month. If somebody needed to be here in person, they could come to that. If not, I do think we are getting more viewership through the online part. And based on what I'm hearing from people, it's easier for people to hear and see what's going on when it's a Zoom meeting as opposed to this at home.
It is a suggestion for council's consideration, so would you approve the schedule and the format? So it's at your discretion whether or not you'd like to proceed with this or have only in-person meetings, that's the scheduling format. So that's why we did a hybrid, one Monday a month. And I mean, it's nice tonight, no snow, but there will be months where potentially due to weather implications that you will have to revert those months in particular to twice if we want to proceed in the inclement weather situation. So again, it's at your discretion. We just sort of put the idea out for you if you would like to even consider that.
Through your worship, the opportunity also exists for public participation through the hybrid setting. They still have the ability to log in and participate that way.
On Zoom? They can't participate by logging in here?
They can.
They could.
They can. Yeah.
So makes no difference.
That's.
I'll let,
So
I just asked the question because I want,
Well, I had the same question too, so that I'm under the same thing too, is that, I'd love to be sitting at home, you know what I mean, you're changing, but I think the aspect of getting together and getting a voice and seeing what people are, it's more
different.
More of the, you can't see everything at the same time that everything's going on, like I can glance around and see everybody's facial expressions and kind of understand what people are talking about. On Zoom, I struggle not to understand everything, but to get a point, sometimes points across when you don't have that open communication between everybody on a one-on-one basis. I struggle with that, so.
And I do too, I like the face-to-face, like, with my fellow counselors.
I have no problem going to Zooms,
Yeah.
it's just that I prefer in person.
So when do we need to formalize this?
Soon. By like the next meeting.
So why don't you think about it and we'll bring it back to the next meeting in order for you to make a decision. It's a suggestion. It's on the communications for you to pull as you've done. And then we can ratify that if you choose to only have in person. That certainly can be the default, but again, if required for inclement weather, for whatever reason, that we may have to through the mayor or through myself, designate that meeting as a Zoom meeting. In order for the meeting to proceed.
Okay, so we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, so come prepared to make a decision.
I don't mind already, but I don't mind the.
Keep us in suspense.
Business on top, something on bottom, come on.
No, I just told you I really don't mind, I didn't tell you what it was yet. Number 5, the county, I'm a little confused.
I can speak to that one. So county council received this report at our last meeting. I would suggest that everybody take the time to read through it. Essentially where we're at this point is county council wants this to go back to each of the 8 lower tier municipalities to discuss and come back early in the new year to have another discussion at the county level based on that feedback. If you've glanced at it, I'll just sort of give the really high level overview that the consultants kind of go through and give a profile on each of the existing fire services within the county. And then they make sort of a series of ranked recommendations that their first preferred recommendation is a countywide Dufferin County Fire Service. I'll sort of withhold my feelings or comments on this until we discuss it. Second one is similar to that, but it would essentially be run through the existing Orangeville Fire Service. So it would be Orangeville Fire Service servicing the entire county. The third option is to essentially maintain the existing services where they are, but to get rid of the joint board models and just revert to a municipal fire service. So in our case, the Shelburne Fire Service would sort of be pulled in as a municipal service, operated under the corporation, and the other member municipalities who receive service from us would essentially pay for it.
I was gonna say be billed.
Yeah. The fourth option, which isn't really a recommendation, and none of us were quite sure why they even included it, was just
Do nothing?
status quo.
Do nothing.
There seemed to be broad agreement that status quo was not necessarily working well,
Yeah.
so like I said, I'm not sure why they even included that. I guess because that's always an option.
It's an option, yeah.
So I think at this point, I don't think we need to formalize anything. I may at some point actually make a motion, asking staff to put together a report. But I think at this point, more than anything, just take some time to read through the report. Jot down some notes or thoughts, and I mean, if you have questions in the interim, by all means, give myself a call or Deputy as the chair. Up here, so probably has more direct hours than I do. And this is gonna be an ongoing discussion, but yeah, yes.
So the
Be
county,
prepared.
it's on their website, correct? Any chance the staff is willing to download it and send it out to us?
It was fully.
It's on
fully
the,
in
so it's in the
agenda.
agenda. Yeah, whole thing's there, it's under number 5,
I've got number
right there.
I have just,
That's fine.
but just the resolution came out, nothing else came.
There,
Awesome.
yeah.
Not bad, is it?
It's not that long,
No.
so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go into it. And the final one for me is a motion of support for the motion from Simcoe. The town of Simcoe Falls or whatever it's called. Yeah, regarding the need for the province to get us some more doctors because we are, there is a medical crisis in the province and I agree with them. I know there's a doctor that's left the ones at the Mel White, I don't.
Shelburne Family.
So I know it's Shelburne Family Health, but I think they're part of the Dufferin Family Area
Oh.
physicians or whatever. But anyway, a doctor has left there and there are people now with no doctor. And they just got a letter recently telling them, I'm leaving, you'll have to find another doctor. In the meantime, there's no doctors really jumping, they're going about Forest, for example, because that's the only place they can find a physician willing to accept them. So we do have a crisis, so I'll put forward a motion of support for the motion from the town to go over. Smith Wall, sorry.
I wish we had X-ray here.
All in favor? Carried. Okay. Anything else in communications? Can I get a motion then to receive the remaining items for information? So Wagner, second by Councilor Sample. Favor? Carried. Motion for our confirming bylaw. Shardy. By Councilor Sample. All in favor? Carried. And a motion to adjourn. Donato. Councilor Wagner. All in favor?
Yeah,
you did. Technically.
Technically.
I thought you wanted it.
If we were in an auction, I'd have to pay.
You would.
Yeah.